Welcome to our team engagement live session for today. I'm so glad that you could join us all. For those that don't know, I am Noelle Smit and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Teamgage. And we are software dedicated to team engagement. So we help teams work better together. And I'm really excited today to have Emma Lo Russo join us. I've known Emma for a while and I've loved to hear her talk about all things culture, leadership, and teams and engaging people. As background, Emma is the founder and CEO of Digivizer, which is a digital marketing insights platform, and goto.game, which is a specialist gaming and esports activations company. Emma's previously been the president and chief operating officer of ASX tech company Altium and held senior management roles at Macquarie Bank and MBF. She's got an MBA. She's won a number of awards, including ICT Entrepreneur of the Year, CXO Disruptor, and New South Wales Tech Entrepreneur of the Year. So really excited to have you join us today, Emma. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to you again, Noelle. Always a good chat.
It is. I think I say this each week, but we will struggle to keep to 20 minutes. I think we had dinner the other week and just sort of covered all these areas, and I think it's an area we're both really passionate about. So with that in mind, I think we've spoken before about team engagement really starts with getting the right people on board. You've got some really unique hiring criteria. Could you tell us about that?
I can, and it's literally been honed after 30 years of hiring, and it'd have to be thousands of people now, that I realized it's not about what people say about themselves, their degree, even where they worked before. The characteristics you're looking for is, are they smart? Are they talented? Do they get things done? Are they infinite learners? And are they not an asshole? And we've actually kind of kept that at these really simple things, like it's just a thing, yes, smart, talented, get things done, infinite learner, not an asshole. And use that in recruitment criteria and the way people are evaluating to use examples. How can you demonstrate just, this person isn't just smart, they really care about delivery and getting things done, that they demonstrate like a continuous lifetime of learning because so much is changing and you need people to be really wedded to a continuous learning mindset. And that because things are forever changing, you just want really good people to work with. And it's interesting how culturally, because it's so easy to recall, people will really call people out if they feel like they're starting to be a bit precious, or behaviour might err into that, and the not an asshole gets quoted so often. I love that it's actually living within the company as well as used it as that original criteria.
Yeah, I think what I like about that is you're actually creating a language and a vocabulary within the company that they can refer to. So, I mean, not an asshole. I think we would all love to work with people that aren't. But having that language in the company where you can sort of, refer to that's quite powerful. I love takeaways, and I think, our audience does too. So one on that, infinite learners, how do you, what's sort of a question you would ask in that interview process to learn whether they're infinite learners or not?
Yeah. So I think first of all, you can genuinely see through their CV, like what they may have done even at school or their extracurricular activities or uni. You just see these people who would naturally engage in all sorts of interest areas, or they'll have separate learning, like they'll have a podcast, or they're a writer and they publish a book, and they'll have all these additional things that just demonstrate they're not just married to their work, or they're not just trying to present this single person. But the way we would talk about it is like, what's your favorite book that you've read recently? What's your favorite podcast? How do you learn? How important is this to you? When do you do it? And then talk about where do they see their professional, what kind of learning that they're going to need to have, or someone in their position, say in 10 or 20 years time, what could that look like? And that gives an indication what they've been thinking about, like what have they actually been looking to when they have been thinking about learning. How global are they in their mindset, or how cognizant are they of some of the the new technologies that could influence the way that their jobs may be done. But it creates great conversation because, like as an example of someone who loves to learn myself, like I love to learn if there's a new book or a podcast or something that someone references to probe a little bit, and you genuinely see a mind open up in that conversation. It's hard to fake if they're a genuine learner, because the recall is so rich, the discussion is so deep, the lessons that they can share are so authentic. It's hard to rehearse when you really get into, share the latest. What did you find? Have you seen this one? But that one about skills and future can give you a real sense as well.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. So assuming, we go through that process and we get the right people in the team, how do you then sustain that within the team?
Yeah, so I mean, that's how we hire. We have very clear values that we talk to, and there's principles that we work to, including practicing radical candor. So I really believe, to be one team, which is one of our values, that needs to be reflected at every level. So there can't be hidden silos of information or no question that can't be asked or a question that wouldn't be answered. And so we create lots of forums and ways for that to live so that people can continuously hear the mindset and the way we make decisions, the way we want to behave. And those types of, like, that language is something that I've seen other organisations avoid, and then they don't, they have consequences with culture, whereas I find the fact that we're constantly reflecting on how have we gone, how have we behaved, if we wanted to look to the future or we were designing a new team or we talk a lot about, what creates a team of strengths and a high-performing team, what behaviours would that look like? And that really gets into the way that we want to engage. And if it comes from the team, then it tends to be protected. So you've got these parameters around values that talk to those things and having the courage and taking responsibility and things that are unique to us, but you would hope people would do, but then practicing it is the other aspect. And then I think the other thing which we try and do is make sure that, from onboarding, we started with recruitment, but it has to be embedded into their whole experience from onboarding to how often they're engaging also with different parts of the organisation. You can't say or have a goal as with one team working towards one vision or mission if people don't talk to one another and they're actually stuck in their silo because you haven't designed engagement or collaboration or actually just relationship building. So how do you pair people? How do you give equity in voice so everyone has a chance to contribute if it's an ideas session? One of the things I love about your product is this polling of the team. Like, you've got this continuous, equity in voice of those that are being asked to engage. And I think that's absolutely essential. Otherwise, it's just those that might be the extroverts or stronger personalities, or maybe the ones that are nearer, they're in office as opposed to remote. And somehow they get to influence something that's actually not fair. You're trying to create this equal opportunity for everyone to be their best and to deliver their best.
I think that's a really good point. I think we can all fall into the trap of the loudest voice in the room gets the most influence, or sometimes the most passionate, right? The angriest voice, or the voice that is the most upset, when you might have someone else who's a bit more even-tempered. And we sort of go, oh, this is a bigger issue here. So I think that equity of voice is a really, really important part of it. You talk about, I just want to, something you said a little bit earlier, that there's no question that can't be asked. I think, radical candor is really hard, right? It's really hard. It forces you to have this incredibly high trust environment all the time. And it can be uncomfortable, but no question that can't be asked. How do you provide that confidence and trust within the teams to practice that?
Well, I mean, don't get me started with the no arsehole thing, right? So hopefully there's cool. No one behaving poorly, because that would be called out. But I think the trick, so we have forums for those that might not be extroverts. Like, there's an Ask CEO Slack channel, and so that's where questions can get asked. We do a lot of polling, do a lot of silent brainstorms if we're doing an ideation session, so that everyone gets that chance for that voice. But generally there's other things where everyone has to actually contribute a component. But when it comes back to that radical candor, one of the other values that we have is that responsibility. And part of that is taking responsibility for the way that the way something lands with the other person. So you can be expressing total candor, but you can be delivering that in a respectful way that isn't crushing to that person. And what we're really trying to do in that is to stamp out any avoidance, or I didn't say what I really meant, or the person didn't hear what they really needed to hear.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely critical. So it's designed into our one-on-ones, it's designed into retrospectives that we do weekly with each of the teams, it's designed into 360. So there is this, and it's language too, like how do you ask for that? But I think as a CEO or as a leader, you also, like when I say there's not a question that can't be asked, there's not a question I wouldn't answer. And I say this always from the start. And, we do breakfast and we have Digivizer and there's all sorts of ways this is encouraged. But I actually think it's a great opportunity to train and nurture and help someone kind of be empowered with like first principle thinking, that if I can answer their question, but in a way that helps them not just answer what they ask, but think about that the next time and be able to apply it, that they've actually got what would be the ways that this would be viewed, or some helpful frameworks, or like, does it do X, Y, Z? Then that's a yes. If it doesn't, then I need to think about this. But, those types of things, like it actually helps everybody.
Yeah.
The trick, as you say, is not to make them feel stupid or intimidated, or feel like, like it just can't be asked, that there's some secret in the company. But I think that's also answered by being transparent. We have our numbers everywhere. We talk in a really open way. We're really honest about, like where we haven't done so well, but, what we're doing to fix that. What's the analysis of that we think is why, and so this is what we're doing about it. But, like engaging people in that and making sure that conversation is always there.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, you sort of touched on that, but let's go a bit deeper on, so you've got remote teams, I understand.
Yes.
So you're not back in the office, or how does that work?
So we're working hybrid at the moment. So we actually gave up our permanent office, like large office, I should say, March last year. So now we do have smaller offices, but they're mostly meeting rooms. But if we're wanting to do 10 days or client meetings.
Yeah.
Then what we do is we're meeting fortnightly as a team, an all company team of those that are in Sydney, a quarter which everyone flies in. That includes the interstate. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we were meeting every 2 years as a global team. We just haven't been able to do it the last 2 years. So what we've had to do, I think, within that is make sure meetings in Zoom are person first, right? So again, there can't be another conversation going on elsewhere. There has to be respect about where the camera and the audio is. So, what is the microphone set up to capture if it's got group on one side and individuals calling in from multiple places? What's that scenario that's set up there? What's back to that equity thing, like if it's a lunch or drinks at this end, what is their participation or equivalent, or things that they can be doing at their end, so they feel like they're not left out. They're not the poor cousins.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely critical. But we've also, back to learning, like, well, we've got every person in the company shares one of the books that they've read, podcast. So everyone's on the schedule. Everyone has to do that. There's these Digibud chats, it's like donut, but where people are paired and there's questions that get asked. It's non-work related to create those conversations. The wins of the week. So we actually start with the external officers first. So they're first in terms of sharing and what's going on, and like a bit of just local context, what's happening in their countries. So that again, that helps that learning mindset of this is what's going on, this is who it is. But to make sure everyone has the chance to be the center of the screen, so that people get to know them. And we've got a remote engineering team, and they were surveyed as part of the group, the building that the team that they're part of in terms of contracting group. And we were chosen as like they were the most engaged, and we were the company that they had most liked to work for. And then when it came down to how and why, it was all these little things. It wasn't one thing, all these little things but really about being treated as a valued employee. And someone who was relatively new from one of those remote countries, was our number one in the Digiverse. So it was just lovely to see that just by making this visibility and having these dialogues and ensuring that equity in the way that we fit that people can see the value, right across the organisation. So it's not just those that are in office.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I love that comment that it's all the little things. I think when you think about people and relationships, it's not the one big thing you did once, or it's that little bit every day. I suppose it's in Teamgage land, we think about that 1% improvement every day over a year, how significant that becomes. So I love that. So we've got a few minutes left. So my last question to you, you went from, president of an ASX company and you started again. You went out as a founder to start up your own company, and you've been on a high growth trajectory ever since. So if you had, a summary of some of I know it's not as simple as this, but try your best in terms of what tips would you give to team leaders today, how they can best engage their teams towards growth and towards achieving goals?
I think no matter what, and I'm sure others have said this, and I know, we've talked about this even ourselves, but, hiring really amazing people, and that's coming back that smart talent to get things done. Like, they don't have to be what you thought. They just have to be those characteristics. And we use Strengths Finder as the other thing. So we build teams to strengths. And I found that right from, building a team of CEO, country level leads, very senior people, that it was the same thing. Build these amazing teams with balanced strengths that could operate as when the sum of everyone was greater than the sum of single parts.
Yeah.
But I think, being clear about what those goals are, like your vision. I think leaders forget, like, it's so important to continuously reinforce it. Like, we think we're saying it a lot, but for someone who's new, it can't ever be said enough. And if you're connecting every decision that's being made to where this fits in, and this strategy component of why this, why now, how does it help us? This is why we're doing this. This is what success looks like. This is our ask of you. And then that they actually do know what that means in terms of leading that. That clarity of purpose, and then what are the measures? Like, what are they being measured? And, okay, our frameworks are powerful in that respect as well. Performance, bonuses, which, say if it's in that kind of sales leadership, then, there is their revenue, but there's the company goals that have to be achieved for them to achieve their full, remuneration. It's so critical that they're being measured on all those aspects, and what's being measured actually influences culture as well. That there's behaviour aspects in there that is being measured. It's absolutely critical to end up with a high performing team. So great, I think great people, clarity of vision. You can't say enough, and connect everything to how people can help you be successful. Because I think when that's clear, and then they know and they can be rewarded, but everyone can. It's not just someone taking credit or a too hierarchical organisation. Like, everyone's empowered. That to me is how you deliver growth.
Yeah. I love that. And that's what we all want to be a part of, right? We want to be a part of a team where we know our work is making a difference, and it is moving that needle. So I love that. Thank you so much, Emma. I'm taking notes. I do that in every session, but it's like I have my takeaways. So it's great for me as well.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you so much. And for those who tuned in today, thank you for joining us. I think there's a link for feedback in the chat, and I think that'll get emailed to you. We love improving, and we need feedback to do that. So please fill that out. I will do a summary on my LinkedIn page, but if you have any any suggestions for future speakers and that, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear. I've been inspired by you today, Emma. So I love that. I love especially the radical candor, but with respect. I think that just frames it for me in a way that, yeah, I think it's something not to be afraid of, telling the truth, but we can do it in a respectful way. That was really interesting for me. This will also be replayed on YouTube. So if you missed some of it, you can watch out on your emails, and on LinkedIn, we'll be sharing the link. So thank you all. Thank you, Emma, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks again, Noelle.